much okay the whole week except for last night. I was reading an email that I got from school, and I got really, really upset.
Okay, you want to talk about that email?
Yeah, there's this counselor that goes to different schools within the district.
Okay.
And she can only do like special counseling for by special request, and her visits are limited to like 6 times or something like that, and then she needs to stop, and then she just moves on to another request.
So when you say about special request, is it request for your children or request for the faculty members?
It's requested by the schools.
Okay.
So if the teacher or the counselor at the school requests it, then she reaches out to the parents and say, hey, I've been contacted by, the school to reach out to you, and, they've requested that I do counseling, with your daughter or son.
Okay.
And this person, her name is Joanna, she came in last year for my son.
Okay.
And so he had a lot of behavioral issues in the beginning of school.
Right. I remember you telling me he's ADHD,
Uh-huh.
and that he's kind of had the adjustment with the moves.
Yeah.
And that kind of picked back up for him.
Yeah. And then she was also doing the high schools, all the schools in the district, and so she reached out to me. She said, hey, the counselor at the high school reached out to me to, your daughter Charlize is needing some further counseling.
Okay.
And she's like, since they're siblings, I can do that with your permission. And I said, yes,
Okay.
And then at that point I was kind of like, well, it was concerning because I was thinking, well, why does she need counseling? At that point, and so.
So this was last week that you got it? You got the email last week?
The email was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she had reached out to me like just before the holiday break for Charlize.
Okay.
And this email was now a recommendation, or received a referral for Jacob again. And so that kind of just piled on me all at once, because I had just taken him to the neurology follow-up appointment, and every time I go by myself. I don't recall Bill ever coming with me for that appointment.
Okay.
But it's a lot to take in.
Okay.
At least, every time when it comes to him, it's hard.
Okay. So let's go back to the email. So the email is not for Charlize, it's actually for Jacob.
Well, she mentioned both of them, so.
Okay. So let me step you back again. You received the same request to work with Charlize back in December.
Yeah.
So she's already working with Charlize, and now your son has been referred to her.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what she's saying is, I'm already working with Charlize, but I have another recommendation from your son's campus to work with him. Okay.
Again.
And I'm just kind of watching you, and it looks like, that's kind of emotionally, I see the distress there. Talk to me about it.
Well, one, I got upset at Charlize, and she said that the past week she was pretty emotional and stressed. And again, I go back to thinking, why didn't she communicate that to me? Because if I can help out, I will reach out to whoever to help her out. And then to hear it like this way, it stresses me out.
Okay.
Because she seems fine at home.
Okay. So let's talk about, I just want to do a correlation with you and with Charlize. Our conversation last week and the week before, you shared a lot about what happened to you at 14 and how you internalized all of that. You kind of just decided, I'm not going to tell anyone, I'm going to live with it. And you did that up until you were 24 years old, until you told your mom. So when you think about how you dealt with it, remember we talked about how we're all different and how we all process differently.
Yeah.
And the difference was when Charlize went through her experience, she reported it. She reported it, and because she reported it, the police got involved, the school counselors got involved, and they also called the dad because they asked her, you know, who you want to contact. So when she's at home, and I want you to kind of put yourself in her shoes if you can, because you've experienced the same thing. It happened differently. It's a different time. You're about the same age when it happened. So when you were with your mom and your sisters after your experience, think about your behavior at that time. How did you act around them?
When
after you were assaulted, how did you act because you chose to keep it to yourself? So when you would be at home with your family, you said it was just your mom and your sisters and yourself. So when you were at home with them and you were interacting with them at 14 after your incident, were you upbeat? Were you down inside? Did you try to cover up any distress that you had?
I tried to cover up, but at the same time, I always wanted somebody to be with me.
Right. Okay.
Present. Whether it be shopping.
Okay.
If it was shopping, I didn't want to go to anywhere public.
Okay.
I was afraid.
Okay. So did they pick up on,
no.
and again, I just want to kind of make a connection, because I want you to understand Charlize's state of mind today, because you've experienced what she experienced, and you were 14, she's 15. Okay, so there's a year's difference. So if you put yourself in her position, okay, being upbeat at home is doing what for her, in your opinion?
She does tend to go to her room a lot.
I can't hear you.
She does tend to go to her room a lot.
Okay, but in keeping, you said, you know, she's upbeat at home. You know, she behaves like she normally does at home. Why do you think that is?
I assume that she's had a great week or a great day, and that's why she's happy.
Okay, but in lieu of what's happened to her, okay, and you had the exact same experience. All right, she's putting on a front. Would you not agree with that? It's like, I'm going to go through life, I'm going to go home, I don't want to stress my parents, because she's got a counselor at school that she's working with, correct?
Yeah.
So when the counselor's letting you know, you know, she's got a stressful week, what do you equate that to?
I immediately think that there's some stresses that's coming from either the kids.
The kids at school? Okay.
Or the teachers that are not working with her 100% since the 504 meeting.
Okay.
The 504 meeting the solution was for the teachers to upload the notes in time for her to be able to go along with the class presentation. Okay. But I asked her last night what was it that stressed her. I needed her to describe. And she went and explained that in school class periods, now they have assignments that they have to turn in that day. Okay. So they start the day with whatever lesson, and then it's due at the end of the day or at the end of the class. So she can't hear what the lesson is. She's waiting on those class notes to be on the Google Docs, and they're not, she said. They're not until like halfway into the class period, and then she's reviewing the information, and she's got this maybe a half-hour time to try to put all of that together and then complete the assignment, and that's what's stressing her.
So she has talked to you about what's stressing her?
Because I asked her, I had to. I said, I want to help you. Okay. And, you know, if you just tell the counselor and it's going to take her a week to contact me, we're not going to get anything done on it because you go to class every day. Right. And we have the power to communicate your needs, and we have a plan in place, the 504, which if it needs to be readdressed, we have that power to make it happen quicker than waiting for a counselor to communicate that through the administration or to us.
Okay, and when you had that conversation with Charlize last night, how was her response to that? How did she respond to that? Okay. So you said she can't hear. Does she have a hearing impairment, or is it because she's sitting in the back of is it where she sits in the classroom? I need to understand why she can't. If she's in the classroom getting the instructions, what is keeping her from hearing?
She does have a hearing impairment.
Okay.
And it just started in January.
Okay. And does she wear a hearing
amplifier?
Yeah.
She's wearing an amplifier, which is not a hearing aid.
Okay.
It's just an over-the-counter kind of just like a volume thing.
Right.
We can take her back to the ENT to get her fitted for hearing aid.
Okay.
But she has to tell us that she's comfortable wanting to go ahead and do that. Or if the amplifier is not sufficient, that's to tell us when.
So where does Charlize actually sit in her classroom?
And she's supposed to be sitting in the front.
But is she sitting in the front?
I believe so.
Okay. So as a recommendation, you may want to just double check with her teachers in her classrooms and making sure that she is sitting toward the front. I know that you've explained that you and Charlize don't always have the greatest communication, but you could even ask her, where are you sitting in the classroom? And then go ahead and verify that with the teacher. So that will help her with the hearing, okay? As far as getting through the assignments, you may have to go back and readdress that 504 with the school to make sure that they are meeting her needs based upon what's in the 504. Okay, so that's one thing. But when you talk about she doesn't communicate with you, that's something that you shared with me that's part of your relationship that you've always struggled with. Okay, and so has there ever been a time with Charlize that she was just really open with you about what's going on with her on a day-to-day, or?
Yeah, there was a time, and that was in middle school.
Okay, and how long ago was that?
What was that?
How long ago was that?
Oh my gosh, she's a sophomore now.
Okay, so it's been a couple of years at least. Okay.
I asked her why she kind of cut back.
Okay.
And she said, well, because I always got the feeling that I was talking too much, and she did on a habit talk a lot.
Okay.
Like constantly, and with Jacob's problems, I was stressed with that because I didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to deal with his behaviors.
Okay.
That I used to be a multitasker. I could do everything, listen at the same time, and it'd be okay and handle things. But when that was stressing me out, I could only listen to one person at a time, and I would tune somebody else out. I could only listen to one person at a time. So
for Charlize to walk away with the impression that she was talking too much, just kind of think back when all of this started changing. Was it something that you would have said to her, or I heard you say, I just tuned her out? Was it just not you responding to her?
Yeah, it was me not responding to her, basically because she would say, did you hear what I said?
Okay.
And I could be driving and I'm thinking, we need to get to school, and then what is the school going to, what are we going to face with Jacob? And then she's talking to me at the same time, and I remember that stress because I'm always the one who has dropped them off at school, picked them up, and so I've always felt like a single mom, and so that was always very stressful for me to juggle all at once.
So in remembering that, are you able to see how even today that kind of carried over to her going into high school? I may need to talk to Mom, but I got to be careful of how much because I don't want to stress her. I mean, just kind of sit there and think about it for a second, and just, you said at one point she used to talk to me a lot, and then I got stressed with the issues that were going on with Jacob, and I couldn't focus on both of those things together. So, every Saturday we get a lot more. It's all good. So, when you think about that, and the fact that perhaps maybe she wants to communicate with you, but she feels that she may be taxing you or overburdening you, Have you thought about that?
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it, but now that you mention it, I can see that happening. I can see her doing that.
Okay. Because you were really emotional when you said, why doesn't she just talk to me?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get you to do is to kind of look at your interaction with Charlize. Look at how the two of you have always communicated. When did that communication change? And as far as the give and take when you're having a two-way conversation, and how far, how distant has that become? And remember, we talked last week about utilizing other phrases to let her know that it's okay for her to come to you, So when you got the email from the school about Jacob, but they also mentioned, because they've got the same counselor, the counselor mentioned to you what's going on with Charlize. Think about, just step back and think about, how did I actually go and approach Charlize with what I read in the email?
Last night I did forget to mention that to her. We were in a movie break.
Okay.
And when I was waiting for them to come back to be seated, I looked at my email, and that's when I saw it, and then I got really upset, and I got upset for that fact that she didn't communicate that right away to me. But at the same time, I was already tense because of the appointment with Jacob.
Okay.
It's hard to digest all of that and just think, what's his academic future going to look like? It's hard right now. Okay. And
I'm sorry, we have to speak a little louder because they are mowing outside,
okay.
And I apologize for that.
That's okay. So when I read that email, it just the stress piled on. And then I thought again, my husband's not helping me enough. I'm always taking all of this information and trying to digest and try to figure out how to help. And I immediately thought, he didn't even ask me how the neurology appointment went.
Okay.
Does he even remember?
Okay.
It's just things like that, the support that I need, I don't have from him.
I get it. So last week when we talked about that, you brought up that same concern last week in our session. And one of the things that I had recommended you to do is to prompt him, because you said he's always been this way. It's not something that he just started. From the moment you guys got together, he's always kind of taken a back seat in some of the family matters and let you do that because you were really, really good at it. So did you, after the appointment, knowing your husband is not going to just come in the house and say, hey, how was your day? How did the appointment go? Did you sit him down at any time to say, hey, I want to talk to you about the appointment with Jacob?
No, I was very stubborn all week with him.
And why were you so stubborn with him all week?
I don't want to do that.
You don't want to prompt him?
I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Okay, so you've been married how many years?
21.
21 years. So in 21 years, okay, in 21 years, I just want you to think about it. In 21 years, how long did you date before you married him?
We met in 94 and got married in 96.
Okay, so a couple of years. So even during the dating stage, was it you always being the aggressor? I mean, and when I say the aggressor, I mean getting things started and moving.
For the most part.
Okay. So this is who he is. And I get it. I'm tired. So to get him to get involved with that takes you to continue to prompt him. That's his nature. That's what he's done. That's what he's done. Okay? And so in your couples counseling that are you still going through couples counseling at church?
We're going tomorrow because he was out of town Thursday.
Okay. Okay. So these are things that, I don't know how you have it set up, if they meet with you together, if they are meeting with you separately. Those are some of the things that you can broach doing your couples counseling with him so he can hear that distress, so he can hear, how you feel about those things. But this is a man that's always been this way, okay? And so for him to, it's just a normal thing for him not to ask and for you to feed him that information. And so I can't read into your husband because I haven't really met him and I don't know how the two of you actually interact. But if that's the way it's been, if you stop that, then you may never get what you need. And you have to find a way to share with him what you're needing from him, but you also have to be aware that it's going to take baby steps. I mean, it's not going to just change for you overnight with that, because he said this is the way he was even when we were dating. Okay, so it's, and I'm just saying, you have to kind of look at what can you control and how can you control that. Okay? Okay, so I see your emotions. I'm looking at your face, and you just really look worn and you look tired. And just let me be quiet and you just talk through that with me. Tell me what's going on with you. What emotions are you feeling right now?
I don't want to try. I'm tired of trying.
So from last week to this week, last week you were excited because he agreed to go into couples counseling. You said you thought that was going to go well for you. So a week later you said, I don't want to do this.
The counselor told us to communicate. That was our assignment. And I'm being stubborn in communicating with him, and I'm waiting for him to start. And he hasn't. He's just staring at the wall while I'm right in front of him. And I know that's what he's thinking, and I'm waiting, and I just waited and waited.
What do you think he's thinking?
He's afraid of opening dialogue with me.
Why do you think he's afraid of opening dialogue with you?
He's afraid to find out that I'm tired.
Okay.
He's afraid to hear that I've been contemplating divorce. He doesn't want to hear that.
Because he loves you. And he wants the marriage. Okay. So remember last week when we talked about how conversation is two ways. So you are married to a man that has always waited for you to initiate conversation. Always. Is that a true statement? Okay. So you go into couples counseling, and the counselor says, I need the two of you to communicate. You've said to me sitting here, I have been stubborn all week, and I've decided not to initiate that conversation. Okay. Thinking about what transpired over the week with that, how do you feel about that decision that you made to be stubborn and not initiate that conversation?
It's not going well. It's not being productive.
All right. So had you decided to initiate the conversation like you always do, what do you think would have transpired had you just initiated the conversation? Not even talking about I'm tired and I don't want to be married to you anymore, but just initiating a conversation with your husband. How do you think that would have transpired?
I don't know. I'm not sure because, well, I don't understand. He went to sleep in my son's room. My son's not sleeping there. He's sleeping in the bunk bed.
Okay.
He didn't want to sleep alone. Since our daughter's in college, it's okay,
Okay.
to sleep there. And he went to sleep down there, and I noticed that all week I kind of just made an excuse and just said, just put him up to bed, put him in his bed, because he fell asleep on the couch.
Okay. And your son fell asleep on the couch. Okay.
And but it was just like one night he slept in his room, and the whole week I just kind of observed. He didn't move around a lot. He stayed toward the end of the bed, opposite me.
Okay.
So he's trying not to be close